Let me go ahead and offer you a scenario really quickly. You're scrolling through the awarded section, and because you have nothing else better to do with your life, you start playing all of them. And you look at them, and they all kind of look the same, and they kind of look like they have really low effort put into them. And so you go like, hey, that level could have been made in like 5 hours. I reckon I could have made, 10 of those levels within a week? Now, to any normal, smart human being, such as yourself watching this video right now, you may think, hey, that's a really big exaggeration. These levels obviously take more effort than that. Realistically, there should be no way to make 10 feature-worthy levels within a week and not go mentally insane. And anyone who actually tries this is stupid and should honestly rethink their life choices. So welcome to Welcome to, hands down, the greatest Jomushash related YouTube video ever made. So as most of the community knows, by now at least, I have made 10 levels in 1 week. I did a live stream about it. I actually did multiple live streams throughout the week, and let me just say, it was a pain. I was slowly losing my mind throughout this whole challenge. Now some of you might be asking, DanZMen, why the hell did you do this? That's a great question, I don't know. Okay, I spent way too long on this skit. But to summarize, I spent 7 days making 10 levels, and I'm going to relay the daily summary of every single day of building. Just for you guys. This video will probably be a bit longer than anything I've ever made. So I guess all I can say to you is enjoy. What the f am I doing? So here we are, day 1. As you can see, I'm already looking like I'm regretting this. It is 9 AM on Monday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. Surprisingly, a lot of people actually thought that this was an April Fool's joke, and honestly, I don't blame them. This was... So the first day and the first level actually started off pretty well. As you can see, I started off with a little ledge right here, and right now I'm adding every single piece of the ledge to a different group. I didn't use build helper at the time. Spectex taught me after. I wanted to move them around, create a little effect as if they were breaking apart. And then of course I checked the weekly demon because I already got bored. Ain't that surprising? So we're half an hour into the first day, and well, unsurprisingly I should say, we have barely done anything. Right here we are trying to make custom boundaries. A lot of creators have been using these lately, and I believe they are amazing. They are perfect for when you want to make your level look more dynamic, but you don't want to use that many objects. Quick tip for inexperienced creators, you should probably try this next time you want to make your level look better instead of using a bunch of tier 3 glow! So I added some basic air deco, then I created a bunch of saw blades to make it all look nice, and boom, first part done. I then very slowly and very painfully made the laziest possible build up to a drop. Before I knew it, it was time to go straight into the drop effect. And let me tell you, I was so proud of this when it came out. I knew what I wanted to do. I managed to do it, and I just gotta say, it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling watching this come out the way I wanted to. So the drop effect consisted of only alpha triggers, move triggers, rotate triggers, text, and the scale hack on just one single rotating object. And let me tell you, I was so happy. I was so happy. Look at me. I am so happy just seeing it work. So for the next part, I wanted to make a stickman effect. I wanted to make it look like he was falling. And as you can see here, I'm having a bit of difficulty trying to get everything to look nice. I turned it horizontally because that's what falling down looks like. And that's about as far as I get for a whole few hours. Eventually, I ended up figuring out the triggers, and I made the effect look pretty decent. Obviously, later on, I would go on to update it, but for now, I thought it looked pretty okay. So we were 5 hours in, and I was making the second part on the drop of the first level. It was around this point that I realized, hey, this is probably a mistake. I should stop. But no, I decided to keep going. This part used so many rotate triggers and so many objects. It was unbelievable. Didn't even end up looking all that great, but I'm still proud of how it turned out. The next part was just a bunch of rotating lines with some gradient, nothing very special. And to conclude the first half of the drop, I decided to add a bunch of stuff to groups and put it all in on a black background, and boom! First half of the level done, I guess. Now, unfortunately, in case it wasn't obvious already, I am not a smart human being. I forgot to record the rest of the building process. So here's a nice little video for you guys to cheer you up. That concludes the entire night. Here is past DanZMen to give you a recap of night 1. So it is 12:06 AM, first night. Feeling optimistic, exhausted, streamed for 8 hours, could just barely get this level to 1 minute. I am not looking forward to this week. This
wasn't my brightest idea.
Day 2. Time to keep going and slowly losing my sanity. So after spending literally almost half an hour just making the layout for the ball part, I started work on basic block deco, and what was funny about it is no matter how hard I tried with the shading, it just didn't quite look right. So at the end I just said, screw it, and I gave up. And that's when I gave up the challenge and realized that this wasn't really worth the CP after all. Just kidding, I'm not that smart. Now let's move on. So I made this part look pretty using some lava and some rock objects. Why did I say rocking? I added a foreground element because I thought that would look really cool. I then added ground spikes on the top and bottom, accompanied with some saw blades and some top and ground glow just to give it a nice little gradient. Not too much because I don't like it when I use glow too much. And before I knew it, I was done. So being the natural class A idiot that I am, I forgot to record building most of this part. I was pretty much done with that part by the time I ended up recording it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's just basically darkness with a bit of lava. So I started off the next part with a classic custom boundary that rotated and pulsed according to the beat, which I thought was pretty cool and added a bit of tension. And then I asked myself, you know what looks cool and colorful? The little orbs that the player has to touch to get from point A to point B sometimes. So naturally, I was like, okay, you know what else they'll be useful? Air deco. Air deco! So boom, that's exactly what I did. To be honest, it didn't look that bad. It just kind of looks like a rambling old mess right now. I then quickly made the last part and boom, I was completed. And that's where I wish the day ended. But no, I created another level in the same day. And oh my god. So there I am, sit in my chair approximately 12 hours after I started my work on the last level. Let me just give you a word of warning. This whole level is just a collage of bad decisions. So the first whole part is basically just air decos, saw blades, and a bit of extra glow because it was just necessary to keep it alive at least. So I was pretty much done with this immediately. On to the next part. I made a top and bottom boundary since I tried to make a little corridor thing, which I thought would be pretty sweet. I added some gameplay and some basic air decoration objects, and before I knew it, bam, I was pretty much done with the second part and free to move on to the third part, which, oh boy. So I had my mindset on a wave part, and before I knew it, it was decorated very quick. And so yet again, I thought to myself, hey, this needs air deco. So you know what looks cool? Red orbs. By the time I came to my senses, it was already done. The level was finished, and I was free to live the rest of my life knowing that I had created this abomination. Once again, after approximately 15 hours of building, I realized I had to record myself summing up the entire day's progress. So it's the end of day 2. I'm kind of optimistic. 3 levels in 2 days. That's actually not bad. That means 7 levels in 5 days. I'm a bit optimistic. I think I can do it. Day 3. We woke up at 7 AM on stream to start building. Yeah! So this is actually my first official attempt at the modernistic style. I think it went well. You can judge for yourself, obviously. So I decided I want a custom ground because every modernistic level has a custom ground. So I gave it a colorful base, and by colorful I mean the exact same color as the background. And then superimposed onto that, I had a gradient that was slightly darker, as you can see. Almost half an hour later, I finished the 20-second layout, and I started on block design. As you can see, I put a ton of effort onto the block design. It was absolutely amazing. Since it was a dark gray theme, I decided to use just a random bunch of colors that were alternating slowly in terms of hue. I felt like this gave it a bit of character, and as you can see, I wasn't happy with the first time, so I adjusted it, and now I'm pretty proud of it. Literally a whole hour and nothing really special happened. I made a circly thing, as you can see right there, and before I knew it, I was completely done with the part. Finally. On to the next part, and with this part, I decided I wanted some grey block design. I'm obviously already skipping through the boring layout part because I don't even care about the layout. Superimposed onto the grey nothingness, I had a few little spikes, multicolored of course, and I basically had the original idea from the first part. For the mini blocks, I decided I would do the same since it looked fairly cool, and I wanted to not have any original ideas after this. I added a rotating checker background because literally every single modernistic level has one of those. And after adding a bit more other deco, I was done after nearly 45 minutes. And now we're gonna take a little break as I scroll through the internet on my other screen, literally doing nothing for close to 15 minutes. Okay, that's enough. So for the next part, I started off with a custom rotating boundary as well as these block designs, which I knew from the get-go that I would have to be pulsing them in a rainbow fashion to give them a bit of character. I then played around with these rotating objects because why the hell not? And before long, I asked myself, you know what's better than one rotating object in the background? Two of them. So that's what I did, and may I say, it actually turned out pretty well in the end. Next thing you know, I'm making the final part, and as quickly as I'd started the level, I was completely finished with it, and I'm proud of it. And this, my friends, is where I wish the day ended for me. But you know what this video is. Obviously, it didn't end for me right there. After almost an hour of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, I ultimately had to accept that I needed to keep building, and judging by the look on my face, I am completely thrilled by that idea. The first part of level 5. This part actually took me the longest out of any single part in the entire challenge. Mainly because I was trying to go for more originality in terms of layering, and I feel like it worked out well, although I did not have any fun trying to build on them. I considered a triangle background at the beginning, and then I thought, hey, that uses so many objects, so I stuck with the laser background instead, and I feel like that was a good decision. Alas, my friends, that is the end of night 3. Here is past DanZMen to bring you the summary of the day's events. So it's night 3. I built for 13 hours today. It is a lot harder than I thought. I have been able to finish 4 levels. The 5th level is halfway done. I've decided to go to sleep early today just to see how that works. I'm going to start streaming even earlier tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. I'm in a bad mood today. The time is 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and we see a wild DanZMen in his natural habitat, sitting in front of his computer, slowly going into depression. So I decided the first part wasn't done yet, so I added some streetlights to it. I think a viewer actually suggested that I add streetlights. Obviously, I had trouble because I always have trouble making art for whatever reason. After giving up and searching up art of a streetlight, I finally managed to get it right. Or at least what I thought it was right. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was good enough for me. A whole hour passed, and I was able to make a sort of rising laser effect that I've seen in a lot of levels. It took way too long, and it was so much more complicated than I actually thought. Also, yeah, $15 donation, that was pretty sexy. Now, you're probably wondering, DanZMen, why is the first part all grayscale and boring? Well, that's because it was the part of the song. The next part of the song actually felt like it could use a lot more color. I wanted to create like a contrast, and it ended up working decently, I guess. I set the edges to different opacities, and then I started on the background, which is basically just a bunch of rising arrows, because Creativity, yes! At this point, I knew I needed some obstacles, but I didn't want to make just random old boring saw blades. What I wanted to make was something that wasn't boring old saw blades. Moving on, I decided to create 2 saw blades that would start rotating around each other. And my idea was I would place something in between those 2 saw blades that you could grab, and if you grab enough of those within the section, you grab a coin. Ah yes, the final part of level 5. In all honesty, I think this part was probably the best part of the entire series. Funnily enough, I was watching an Ice Poseidon stream during this, and it made me feel a bit down and depressed. So what I ended up doing was I made a grayscale theme with this, with only a hint of rainbow color. I then applied bug fixes to make sure that the coin worked properly, and before I knew it, I was finished with level 5. Ah, what the hell? Ew, ew, oh god, ew! So it's 9:07 PM and this half-naked hunk of manliness is about to build the 6th level of the entire building challenge. Yippee! I'll be honest, the first half of this entire building process is just way too dull for me to go through, so I'm gonna skim over most of it. Gameplay? Check. Decoration? Check. Air decoration? Check. Saw blades? Check. Ground spikes in case someone manages to jump over everything and lands on the ground? No, I completely forgot about that. So this level had a secret way for about a day and people could not stop messaging me about it. After building half naked for almost 2 hours, I realized, hey, I'm half naked, it's probably time to go to sleep. So I did. But not before summarizing the events of that day. I hate myself. Quick prologue to day 5. My sister took us out for drinks that night, so I had to actually end up finishing my creating a bit early that day. On to the level, and we start off with the ship part. All I can remember from the ship part was that it was so boring to build, I found no joy in making it, or even the UFO part afterwards. Lesson to be learned, ladies and gentlemen who want to start their building career. Please make sure, for the love of God, that you absolutely idolize the music that you're using for your level, because you will get bored of it, and you will hate the level you're building. It happens a lot. Anyways, I started off by creating a checkered design for the ship part. Obviously, I knew that it was going to be not as great, but I still enjoyed making it, honestly. After about an hour of saw blades, air deco, and moving triggers, the part was done. For the next UFO part, I thought it would be cool to make just a bunch of rotating objects and make them move in a diagonal fashion. I thought it would be cool to do that. In hindsight, it wasn't probably the greatest idea. And if that part wasn't bad enough already, I had to go ahead and add black orbs and monsters to it, just to decrease the gameplay factor just that tiny little bit more. In all honesty, I really don't want to go through the that part. And here we are, decorating the final part of the 6th level. This is a wave part, pretty obvious. I vividly remember my hand hurting so bad when I was building this part. I don't know why. I built wave parts for so long, but this one really started hurting my hand. After adding a bunch of rainbow P blocks and a bunch of saw blades, I was done with the level. Oh my god, finally. In terms of quality, this is one of the lower grade ones of the entire challenge. Specifically because I fell out of love with the song extremely quickly, and that really hinders your performance. Trust me, you want to pick a song that you absolutely 100% love. Not you sort of like, but love. Around this time, I was supposed to be getting ready for my awesome night out on my birthday to go out with my family. But who cares? Geometry Dash comes first. Life lesson, kids. Always play games before family. I went ahead and started off the next part with some black and white deco. I felt like it really worked well with the entire theme that I was going for. And about half an hour later, I'm finally getting done with the block design in the first actual part. This block design clearly reminds me of the 4th level. Yes, I was too lazy to start a new block design. I'm sorry, please don't kill me. Half an hour later, I was done with the policing, with the air deco, and with the custom objects and paths. I could finally go ahead and go out drinking with my family as part of my birthday, and I was sure that that wouldn't bother me for the rest of the weekend. I believe it was Thanos who said himself, "Alcohol does not impair judgment, especially when it comes to creating in Geometry Dash." Anyways, do you guys want to see what I was like after having a great night out, getting wasted with my family? I do too, let's do it. Okay, night 6. Getting the day mixed up. That's a great start, dude. The longest week of my life is nearly over. And I feel great about that. I really do. I just want this to be over. I really want this to be over. Wake up in the morning building level 7. Before I get copyrighted, let's move on. Here, what I'm doing is I'm creating an outline. This is one of the first spider parts I actually remember making in this entire challenge. To make it look a bit nicer, I made sure to add some objects that were different color, you know, to give it that rainbow feel. Fast forward about 25 minutes and we have block design. Obviously, the block design isn't too great, but it's the best we've got with the time we have. About 45 minutes after that, I managed to finish some actual air deco, custom arrows that were rainbow, and some rainbow spikes. Literally, I could have made so much more in that time, but as you can see, I have no idea what I'm doing. I actually made the next part pretty quickly. As you can see, I made a short one and a long one, and what I was going to do was I was going to rotate them, make them all into a circle with all different hues of the same color. So when I pulse one color, I pulse every single color. That made no sense, but you'll see. Boom, and there you have it, a bunch of spiky balls that will rotate as I fly through them. I then added some delicious looking chains as well as a wavy background to make it look a bit better. And before you knew it, I was done. It looked pretty nice, actually. At the end of the day, it could have been better, but I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. Here's a quick question. This is one of the hardest challenges of your life. Do you record? Or do you forget to record and just blame it on the government? If you answered A or B, you were incorrect. The correct answer is C. You're just an idiot and you just forgot to record, like I did. I completely forgot to record this entire first part of level 8, so I'm sorry about that. Please don't kill me. As I watch myself build, it's pretty apparent that I am absolutely exhausted, and it shows through the quality of this level. Honestly, this is probably the worst level in the entire series, apart from level 3. After a few hours of just copy-pasting the same block over and over again, and then basically doing the same with rotating fireballs, I got started on the last part at 10:03 p.m. right when I was supposed to go to sleep. The ideas in the block design weren't really anything special, but I did like what I was doing, after all. You know what's better than building 10 levels in a single week? That feeling when OBS decides to stop recording completely. You know, I love those days. So yeah, there's about a full hour of just this. You're watching some great family-friendly quality content right here. At around 11:40, I finalized my recording for the day and I went to bed, not realizing that I had to summarize the day's events. So I didn't even record myself summarizing the events of the whole day. So yeah, the way I can summarize the entire day was incomplete. 7th and last day of the challenge. Oh my god, where am I going? Literally the most important day of the challenge, and I decide to go somewhere else. Anyway, so level 9, that's a great Despacito right there. For the first part, I went with a good old grayscale theme. Oh my god! The creating aspect of this part was actually pretty dull, so I'm gonna go ahead and skim over most of it. I went with a grayscale design inspired by Yendis. At some point, I added a pinwheel because pinwheels are amazing. Shut up, pinwheels are incredible. I then slowly and painfully set a ton of move triggers to make sure that the little blocks actually moved properly. Fast forward a few hours and boom, here I am making a face. I went for a sort of artistic theme because I wanted it to be a bit unique from all the other levels. A whole bunch of move triggers later and I was pretty much done with the first figure. Now I had to make the second one.
Oh yeah, look at those muscles. Oh yes. Oh!
After creating some epic guns with all the objects I was using, I thought to myself, hey, this guy's fat. Let's cut some flesh off of it. I then created a sort of torso contour. I made sure to keep it accurate to my body shape. After giving this guy a glove, I want to ask you something. Don't you guys just absolutely love it when someone doesn't learn their lesson? Well, neither do I, but that's exactly what happened here. As you can see, my mouse is moving erratically, and that's because OBS isn't recording the actual gameplay. It's frozen. So that was great. I had to skim through over an hour of just raw footage of me just swirling my mouse over everything else. So about an hour later, here I am making a wave part, and to be honest, it looks pretty cool. And before I knew it, I was done. I was finished with the epicness of the 9th level. A lot of people seem to really like this one, so I'm glad you guys do. Moving on, level number 10. The final level of the challenge. And as a tribute to being the final level, I decided to change up the background music for you. Just because I wanted to set a theme. So the first part was pretty simple to make. Just add a bunch of random shapes and add red glow underneath and you'll create a hellish theme that is mwah! Just beautiful. After laughing my ass off at Jack's films for like a minute, it was time to get back to work and boom, I had made a full ball part. An hour and a half later, it was my birthday. And how do I spend the first few minutes of my birthday? Obviously building the next part. After copy pasting a bunch of objects for the next part, I was pretty much done with the first half of the level. Here's something cool. Build helper. I literally cannot believe I didn't hear about this sooner. I swear to God, it's just one button and everything else is added to a new group and boom, you're done with a whole part. And that's how this happens. After about 25 minutes of just simply taking the piss, I was finally able to get onto the transition to the next part. Boom! Now that's a sexy transition. After spending literally an hour just building a layout, the recording stops there. At least until 5 o'clock in the morning. Surprise, surprise, I look absolutely exhausted. 5:48 a.m. At this point, I was just absolutely exhausted and I wanted to go to sleep so badly. I then proceeded to spend like 5 minutes just nearly crying because I'd finished the challenge. I was completely done. Yeah! As you can see, I'm super proud of myself for finishing this challenge. Fast forward about 5.5 hours later and I was finally ready to release these levels live on stream. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about how the stream went. Literally, the entire stream can be summed up in 5 seconds. God, come on! Oh my God! Lab, thank you for the 5. Can I hype in the chat? Hype in the chat! Oh, let's go! Yeah! Hype! Hype for level 7! Yes! Oh my God, partition! Yes! 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 Oh my God! Okay, it was a little bit longer than 5 seconds, but you get my point. And that about wraps it up for the whole video. I want to thank every single one of you for supporting me throughout the entire week. It was next level horrible. I also want to thank nobody for sponsoring this video because I don't have enough subscribers or views. And we'll see what goes on from here. See you guys.